Hi guys, and welcome to Sofa Talk with Heike. And this time, or the first time I want to say, I want to actually talk about aggression and how people behave in this time of uncertainty and pretty unprecedented times. And I get asked a lot, and I experience it a lot as well, that people are way more triggered, way more aggressive with words and in actions and everything. And also online a lot. And the other day I put out the South African stats, but from a different angle, where it's not all doom and gloom, that there is hope. And so many people got so incredibly angry with me for doing that. And I was called anything under the moon, which I'm quite used to, so that's fine. But what fascinated me was they were arguing the stats with me, and how dare I not making them look bad. And I'm like, it's the same numbers, but there is no reasoning. And so I looked a bit further, because I find it an absolute eye-opener that when the same stats being given in a negative spin, they're not liked, but they are accepted. And when the same stats are being presented with a more positive, a hopeful spin, they're being rejected by so many, so vehemently and so aggressively and so like their life depends on it, no pun intended. So when I looked at this whole thing and did some research on it as well, ultimately what this is because this is all people that are very clever, reasonable kind of people. You kind of like, I didn't expect it from this person, from that person. And other people also say, like, I don't recognize some of my family members anymore, or whoever it might be. And this is obviously because the circumstances are not normal, so it will trigger us in different ways as well. And all of us have different ways of fight, flight, whatever. But most of all, what happens here is with this whole not wanting to accept anything that brings more hope, or just arguing it all and nearly insisting on doomsday stuff is like, being angry is easier than being vulnerable. So Heike's saying, it's like, listen guys, it's not good, but it is also not the worst. It is like, we are doing slightly better here and slightly better there. And let's look at this and let's like try to bring in some logic. It's automatically saying, how dare you? That doesn't fit my reality. That doesn't fit my fear. And this is what's underneath that. The higher the fear is, the more aggressive is the response. Because instead of saying, listen, I don't know if I'm coming or going, and I know it's most likely not rational to a certain, but the fear is real. But the moment I say, I'm scared, and I'm scared out of my wits, and I'm worried that I will lose family members, I'm worried that I can't pay my bills, I'm worried that I can't send my kids to school anymore, that vulnerability is something that we find very hard. So instead of saying like, oh my word, there it would be, I rather go like, how dare you telling me that my fears are not real? So there's this whole reverse happening there. It's like we all want it over. Everybody wants it over by all means. But it's nearly kind of like saying aggression is easier than vulnerability. And in that light, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. So I'd rather go in and attack what doesn't fit my frequency right now, instead of saying there would be that. And yes, we all had enough, and we all exhausted, and all affected us in different ways. And everybody by now had it way too close, or in their family lost people, knows who have lost people. There is no anybody suffers more than others. You can't compare that. But we need to also understand that people who react that way, that we don't counteract with biting their heads off either. It's like, I understand that your frequency is not there right now. Mine is not better than yours, but I will not help myself nor you if I meet you on a negative level. Then we both sit in a hole together, and that's not helping. Yes, every death is tragic, no doubt about that. And it's not taken away from the loss that has occurred due to that. But at the same time, recognizing and saying, we can also overcome that. We have certain resilience and ways and power to deal with that and stick together and bring good stuff out as well, to create some kind of balance. And yes, it affects our immune system. How we feel and how we think is either strengthening or weakening our immune system. That's scientific fact. which was another thing that people kind of like bit my head off. But now I should have 10 heads. It's kind of like with those Medusa thingies. But it makes sense. Fear is a powerful thing. And this is also, don't ever try and argue with these people when they are in that state. And I'm not saying it's not worth it, but you cannot argue with an emotional person. And then we all know if somebody, for example, throws a hissy fit and you try to get through with logic, you might just as well talk to a wall. And there is actually a neurological reason for that, which I actually found out, because we all know you can't talk with anybody who is upset or highly emotional. And now I know why. Because there is, I'm just going to simplify this whole thing because I use big words. And big words with my German accent might get confusing. So what actually happens is like our senses take in any kind of stimulus. We see something, we hear something, we experience something. The info gets into like the center of the head where it says, okay, like let's think about it first, what that is and what it does to us and how we feel about it and how it fits in our life. And then it goes to another little center, it's called amygdala, and that one then releases the emotional response to it. So the logic thinking is here in the front, and amygdala, which is triggering then how we want to respond to it, an emotional kind of thing is like further in the back. So it comes into the central station and goes like, okay, we go here and then we go there. Now, when we have an experience that is extremely emotional to us, it bypasses the logic. And there's only enough fuel to either do that triangulation or go straight. So this is literally why, in short, when we are highly emotional, it literally sucks the fuel out of the frontal area of the brain where the logical thinking is, and it fuels entirely the amygdala, who then releases all kind of hormones and everything, get the body functions up, and because we have all those physical reactions to it. This is like when there's panic situations like that, people all of a sudden have all kind of strength and volume and all kind of things. And the moment we calm down again, this is slowly when the logic comes in and you're like, oh my God, I completely overshot the target kind of thing. But this is literally a process that happens in our brain. There's actually a word for it, it's called the amygdala hijack. Because instead of going via the logical brain first and then triggering the emotional response, it goes straight to the emotional response in full throttle. And that still goes way back to our caveman times. So it was fight and flight was a survival thing. But nowadays, fight and flight and trauma is a complete different setup in many, many ways. So it makes a lot of sense that those things are coming up nowadays. So don't get into a whole kind of like a fighting match with people. And let's not forget, especially online where there is a written communication 90% of the time, people read with the filter they're wearing and the circumstances they're in that second that they are reading it, with the voice that they have in their head that fits all of their reality. Now, you might have one voice, one reality, and mean like a good thing, and somebody else has a complete opposite filter and reads it the other way around, or vice versa. So there is this whole kind of like, let's breathe. Let's just kind of like, you decide where you are and you remain there. So you can bring it out there, but if people reject it and don't want it, that is okay. And I really want to say, don't take it personal. And believe me, I can also get upset about things. I also want to bite people's heads off at times. I am German and I am a worker. But it makes sense. We need to remind ourselves those are extraordinary circumstances which triggers all kind of stuff. So between the amygdala hijack and ultimately everybody is scared. And if we are saying that loud, or if we go like, how dare you, and call people names and accuse things, projection and attack, anger, rage, aggression is easier and makes us feel more in control. We're still not more in control than ever before. We're just attacking on top of it all and still destroy some relationships along the way. But psychological, it makes us feel in control when we're the aggressors. It's easier for most of us to say, I'm shit scared. You know, if I'm coming or going, I'm trying to keep it together and I can't handle this anymore. And this is also when you look at us like this whole people wearing masks. Yes, it's a law. So when you go out, just wear the freaking mask. And you can have your own opinion about it or not. That's okay. So when people get all aggressive about you not wearing masks or vice versa, what they're really saying is, I'm scared. I'm scared that I might get sick. I'm scared that I might take it home. And it's like, it's fear. And if you can maybe look at it from that angle and say like, it's just fear. It's not even personal. but it's fear trying to bully its way over vulnerability. And that's human. So let's allow each other to be human in these times, and let's cut some slack, and let's not get into all kind of slinging matches. But for me, it was a big eye-opener, especially also with this amygdala hijack. And please look it up. It's a real thing, and it makes so much sense. And that explains a lot at the moment. So it does not mean when we are in those states as those people, or when we are in those spots, that we are stupid or we don't know what we're doing. It means we're emotional beings, and we all have our cutoff points, and we all are vulnerable, and sometimes we just find it at different stages in different times. So let's just keep that in mind. Love and light to all of you. Try and keep sane and be kind to yourself and others. Lots of love.